Welcome to the Grace Fellowship podcast. We are so excited that you're here listening with us. We hope that today's episode will inspire and equip you to know and follow Jesus.
Welcome back to the Grace Fellowship podcast. I am Laine, the student pastor here at Grace, and I'm here with Chris, who's continued us on our Perspective Shift series.
Oh, yeah. Change the way we see things. You know who else is changing the way we see things?
Fighting Texas Aggies.
Fighting Texas Aggies. You know we couldn't get too far without talking about that.
Not if I'm on the pod.
That's right.
Mark doesn't talk
No, he doesn't
football
want to
with
talk.
you.
He wants to talk about Ohio, but who do they play?
Yeah, and who cares?
Yeah.
They're just sitting. No one's even watching Ohio football right now. No one's even watching.
They don't even make it.
But I do feel every week like my battered Aggie syndrome goes away a little bit.
See, I was feeling it coming back in this last game pretty good.
Yeah.
When we couldn't stop anything,
Dude.
it was a moment where I was like, here it is. We're back. And I think part of it is we went into this game a little bit expecting it to be a trap game because Arkansas can typically just sneak up on us.
It's never a big win. It's always
No.
close. And dude, when we were up 21-6, I texted a friend and I was like, honestly, I think we're so good now that football is starting to get boring. Like, I'm used to having anxiety. And then with about 2 minutes left in the first half, I was like, hey, I regret immediately sending that text message because this is gonna be brutal.
Oh yeah.
And honestly, Aggie football is something that gives me some anxiety most days, which is perfect, considering that's what we talked about this week. And peace and anxiety. That's sometimes
Can I tell you honestly? Sometimes if it's too late, the game's too late, I don't watch it because I know I won't be able to sleep and I have to get up at 4 a.m. the next morning to get ready to preach.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know what? If it's getting too close, I just have to shut it off and I'll wake up the next morning and just see how it turned out. Yeah. Because I know
you'll be all worked up.
The anxiety just kills me, man.
Oh, dude, yeah.
Yeah. So we're talking about peace and not living in anxiety. And so I just had to turn off the source of anxiety.
Yeah, dude. Well, and it turned into a little bit of a night game, so it did start to kind of run a little bit on there. And dude, you started us off yesterday with some 21 Pilots lyrics, which I was impressed. And how much 21 Pilots do you listen to, or do you just know Stressed Out?
I just know certain songs from. So my years of student ministry, you know how it is. You get these mixed playlists that you're playing in the lobby that are songs that are safe songs and whatever. And so I have the most random genre of music that
and that was like the go-to band that you could play in a youth ministry. My first couple years in youth ministry was right when they were like very big, and so we played it all the time.
Yeah, it was safe music, man.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And you were singing, dude. There are multiple times when I'm getting ready to preach and I think like, oh, this song would work, and for a split second I'm like, maybe I should sing that on stage. And then immediately I'm like, I will never do that. So hey man.
The funny thing is in run through, I didn't sing it, but I wanted to the whole time. And as I was actually, when I decided to sing it at 8 o'clock,
you were like, I'm swinging for it.
And then I was like, here we go. It just started. And then I got the reaction I got and I was like, I guess I'll do it at 9:30, 11, and 12, and 30 as well. So it is what it is. So,
dude, that's awesome, man.
But it's not the first time I've ever sung on that stage. Did you know that?
Listen, I have seen, not from that stage, but I have seen the videos of your worship leading days, and they're impressive.
A few years ago. I don't want to use the word impressive, but there's something.
There's a legacy there. There's a legacy there, for sure, dude.
Yeah.
But we're talking about peace. In the peace conversation, we can't talk about peace without talking about anxiety.
Yeah.
And then leading off some of that conversation, right, we get into Philippians. It starts off, and it says, don't worry about anything, which I think, I grew up in a culture. My generation is probably the beginning of some of the more anxious generations, I feel like, just like access to internet.
You're a millennial, right?
Yes. Okay, on the younger end. So.
Yeah. So that's what that book, Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt, kind of it's focused in. It really zeroes in on how the millennials and Gen Z, how there was a drastic increase. And so, your generation's right there at the heart of that. Yeah.
Yeah. And just I saw someone post the other day that like my generation raised by the internet, the next generation raised by the algorithm, right? So not just the internet, but like the internet that
is aimed at them,
targets and controls and like actually forms you and stuff like that. So we see some of the dangers there. I think when we think about, and we start with, hey, don't worry about anything. I think there's been a decent generation of Christians and believers that have struggled with like, hey, is my anxiety in and of itself sinful? Like, am I sinning? Am I actively sinning when I'm anxious? So we didn't touch on that a lot yesterday, but what would be kind of maybe your take on some of that or your thoughts through some of that?
Sin. I don't know. I think it to me, it's a good question I probably hadn't thought about. Just the idea of if I dwell on it, if that's where my mind lives, then probably there might be a level of sin because he tells us don't worry, instead pray about everything. And so really what's at the heart of worry is is it my ability to try to control or believing that I should be in control, which is really putting ourselves on the throne and rather than trusting that God's on the throne. So I don't know if it is sinning or it's a result of sin, but sin's involved somehow because I think the result of sin is that we have a poor perspective of who God is and that we can trust him and that we can. So you get what I'm saying? I'm not sure. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I think I've had to, we're from like the mental health generation and all those things and talking about, and we can even talk a little bit about that some today, but I think I think it's how you handle it, right? Because I think that sometimes our anxiety feels like can feel like an attack on us or something that's happening to us, something that feels a little bit out of our control. But I think in the control space, how we handle that, I think is when it begins to maybe lead to sin or become sin, right? Like we feel anxiety coming on. If our reaction is, okay, well now I have to be in control of everything, or I start to treat people poorly as a result of my anxiety, or I start to trend in certain directions, then that becomes an issue. But, with what Paul's talking about, I think he's starting from a place that's saying, hey, you are anxious, is what it feels. If you're telling someone to not be anxious, it's not because they're calm.
Yeah. Which I mean, think about who he's writing to. The Philippians, I mean, they're living under persecution. They're Christians in a time that being a Christian wasn't easy. Yeah. We're seen as more of it wasn't like here in America where people think that they're a Christian because they're born in America, which is by the way does not make you a Christian. Yeah. But it's actually in a place where it's like if you're a Christian, you're the outsider, you're the outcast in that society, and so he's writing to a group of people that. They're a strong community because really, in a lot of ways, all they had was each other. Yeah. And so he's writing. Yeah, I think he is writing. And as I process this, I don't necessarily know that anxiety, and I think what you're saying, and I think this makes sense. Anxiety or worry is a sin necessarily, but it's what you do with it. Yeah. It's a feeling, it's an emotion, but how do you handle that emotion? How do you respond to that emotion? Yeah. Do you believe that emotion or do you believe the truth? Like in which one is getting to guide your life? Because if you allow the anxiety and the worry to guide your life, will lead to treating people poorly and responding poorly and
making bad decisions, all those things. Yeah, it becomes the baseline that you operate from. Yeah. And it really is the baseline that I think a lot of people operate from. Like there is a lot to be anxious about in the world, or it definitely feels like there's a lot to be anxious about in the world, right? Yesterday you talked even about our access to information, even the way that like our news sources shape us, that the internet shapes us, right? Like the world around us has monetized fear and anxiety, right? Like the goal of pretty much everyone around us is to create anxiety or fear within our lives because then it keeps us watching, it keeps us looking, and now they can make money off of that. And we just kind of like fuel that fire to some extent.
Yeah, we do.
And then and that's because maybe that's your political sphere. Yeah. But then you have like the parenting sphere. Oh, yeah. Dude, the pressure to get parenting right now is absolutely insane.
Well, and there's the spectrum is huge, right? There's such a broad spectrum of the way that people view everything. Yeah. In the student ministry world, one of the things that we talked about is when I was a student pastor, that we had a grid that our parents had for us, or my parents had for us growing up. Not everybody, obviously. Even then, there was the differences in the way people parented. Mm-hmm. But like, for me to be able to go spend the night at someone's house, there was a grid. Well, who are their parents? Do we know their parents? What are their parents do? Like, they had to know some stuff, right? Yeah. There was a grid. Now, the new thing that people lack a grid, or there is no grid for, or people are trying to figure out a grid, is just the cell phones when it comes to students. And this was one of the things that I talk to parents about all the time, is that we need to create a grid for how we make our decisions based on because basically what you're saying is, hey, go spend the night at whoever you find on the street, just spend the night at their house. Yeah. But because there is no grid for the way that why? Because it's new, and it's not because parents are. It's literally because nobody's figured it out yet. Like we're still figuring this out together, and so there's this grid. Well, so there's this stress of, well, these parents allow that, and these parents allow that, but so what am I supposed to allow? What am I supposed to not allow? What is okay for my son, my daughter, whatever? Yeah. And so there's the stress of trying to figure that out, because here's the other thing I know, is that if I say no to my boys about something that they feel like every single one of their friends' parents are saying yes to, but I have good reason to say no, there's the stress that I have there with my sons.
Now what have I done relationally here?
And so it feels like it's a stress. It's constant stress when it comes to navigating the parenting side. Yeah. And even where you allow your students to go or kids to go, it's a lot different today than it was back then. I mean, back then we spent the night at people's house all the time. Yeah. Now, I know people are like, we just decided we're not doing sleepovers, period. No. Well, I understand that. I respect that to some degree, because of all that we've found out over the last many years, and for sure. And they're going, hey, it's our job to protect our kids, blah blah blah. Yes, you're right. I don't know, but now once again creates that weird deal with their kids and other kids, or your parents and kids, and so there's stress in just parenting when it comes to that.
Yeah, well, I think something that we try to focus on in our house. That can sometimes be pretty difficult, right? Is like, we have anxiety, but we also don't want our kids to like inherit that anxiety. Right. And, and so we even have to think about the language, and we watch, like, both of my girls are very like nervous people, scared of it. Like, what is safe? What is not safe? Right. Like, which is hilarious to me, because I don't feel like that's who I was as a kid. Like I was like, let's jump off the roof onto the ground. There's
did that.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah. Let's figure out these things.
It was a bad decision, but I did it. Yeah.
And yes, most of the things I probably should have had some version of anxiety about. But because we have so much of it, sometimes we impose that on our kids, and so there's a lot in that, right? It does feel like there's this massive lack of peace.
Laine,
and
there was this. In my backyard, where we grew up till I was in middle school, we had a big hill in our hill on the front yard, hill in the backyard, and so at the top of the hill we had this tree, had a rope swing on it. You could get on with a little seat on it. You can swing out. But then that we had this fort that sat kind of at the bottom, towards the bottom of the hill, just in reach of that swing. Well, we figured out we could get that swing up there to the top. There was a double lever, like bottom and top fort. So I'm talking, it had to be 12 feet, 14 feet in the air. Yeah. We would get the swing, step on the fort, the railing of the fort, over Absolutely. 14 feet in the air, jump off and land on the seat and just swing back and forth.
100%.
I don't imagine a day today.
Oh my gosh.
Where 99.9% of parents would ever allow even trying that.
Get down from there. That's unsafe.
You would be considered a bad parent for allowing.
Yeah, you'd be like,
what are you doing?
Who are you?
Why would you allow? My kids are never coming into your house, right? Yes, like, dude. It would have been one of those things.
But just so funny, because
it was awesome.
It was, and sometimes it's like, hey, that's probably not even the thing that should cause you the most anxiety, right? Like, I understand the sleepover situation, and some of it is like, we joke, well, we're still learning my parents, when I was a kid, the internet was becoming like a readily accessible thing, not on their phones, but on computers in households. Yeah. Even then, 20 years ago, parents should have been asking, hey, what is your access to internet in the house? And what does that look like? And those are just now becoming questions that parents are asking when our kids go over to houses of like, hey, is there older siblings? Is there technology in the house? What's the internet available? Like things like that matter to some of that. And in so many ways, we're playing catch up. And then in all of that, right, you Christianize it. Yeah. I always say, like, sometimes there's even more anxiety because it's like, okay, well, it's not just what do I do right as a parent. It's what do I do right as a parent unto the Lord. Yeah. And you have people that'll say, well, all Christians should do this or all Christians should do this. And it's like, well, I'm doing neither one of those things. So all of that begins to mount up.
Right? Yes. I mean, I think there's other anxiety. Yeah. I mean, there's the political sphere, the parenting sphere, there's the financial sphere. Yeah. The market, job market. Yeah. How's your company doing? Are you
this economy is going to tank? This is good.
There's always this constant roller coaster, right? Yeah. There's not a lack of things to be
singleness
about,
and young adults.
Like that is on the rise.
More and more delaying marriage and all those things because it's like, I mean, you don't want to mess up that decision, you know?
Which is a wrong view of that decision altogether.
100%.
But it's also a wrong view of even approaching singleness. Of, well, we got to get this out of our system before. What a poor decision.
Yeah, I better have fun now.
Yes, what a poor decision. Yeah. I've seen that wreck a lot of people, but not that God can't restore and God can't fix and God can't rise. But it's
But let's not try him.
Let's not take the long way around. All right.
I texted a buddy of mine the other day and I was like, man, if 20-year-old Laine knew how great being 33 was going to be, this is the best. This is the most fun I've ever had. I didn't know that it would be this fun, but this is a blast, And it's like if we could just tell every kid that, and two, I just think even in the realm of like singleness and dating, and this is a real anxiety thing even for teenagers. A few years ago, when I was doing student ministry at a different church, I would talk about like dating and all this kind of stuff, and I started looking around, and I'm like, man, and we had a decent sized student ministry, 150 kids. No one in my student ministry was dating anyone.
Really?
And I was like reading some articles and stuff, and it was like, the decline was just drastic because of the inability to even like imagine talking to another person or taking that sort of social risk was like, so you had like maybe things like sexting and stuff like that was on the rise. Yeah. And like a digital engagement, but no real life engagement was happening. And I was like, this is mind-blowing. Now, I think that's turned a corner a little bit because I feel like every student in our student ministry now has a significant other. Like kids are walking in all the time with the person that they're dating. Yeah.
Well, I think that there's also been an interesting change just in people's realization of, just the fact that, the phones and constant screen time is having on people. Yeah. And in fact, that's why schools are going to the phone ban, which is forcing kids to actually
and I think has been
look
so
at each
helpful.
other. Yeah. I'm 100% for it. Yeah. They're forcing kids to actually like look each other in the eye and have conversations. It's fantastic. I saw something interesting that psychology was started 120 years ago, like that form, and that the rise in all mental health issues is greater today than ever before. Yeah. Isn't that fascinating? Yeah. And so it's one of those things. And what he was talking about is that because so many people are turning towards a psychologist more as a priest, as someone to look to for discipleship, rather than being discipled. And this is also why I always say, hey, Christian counseling matters. Yeah. Because in a way, they're discipling your soul. Yeah. And if they're not leading you to the source of peace.
Yeah, from a baseline, yeah.
If that's not where they're leading you and that's not their baseline, then they're not going to be able to help you. It's actually going to be just symptom management, not fixing or getting to the root of the issue. So.
Well, I think, too, in that, we have so many people that are focused. I talk with kids all the time. They're like, oh, I have anxiety. And so that means that I just avoid something or I stop doing something. And I think it's good for us, too, to acknowledge, and we'll take the next step in the passage, but to go, hey, there's also good anxiety, right? Like there's anxiety that you should feel anxious in moments, right? Like my wedding day, I was pretty anxious. I had a decent amount of anxiety. Before I preach, I have anxiety. Before I preach, before athletic endeavors, like there's anxiety that drives you to performance, or that helps you understand the weight of something. Yeah. We don't want something to go away. And I think that's important too, because sometimes we just go, oh, this thing is a problem. Yeah. It's like, well, no, like the Lord has put things in us that make our body respond to certain ways, things that help us.
Yeah, I mean, really, if you think about it, it's the fight or flight is to help you run from a bear.
Yeah, right?
Like I talked about yesterday. But in that same level, it's like, no, it's directing your energy towards that moment. So the thing so if you are, speaking, your focus, your mental, your, which is also, one of the things that makes doing 4 services really tiring.
Because you have to live in that.
You're living in that, and you're experiencing that 4 times in a row. Your body's experiencing that, I guess I should say. But God is, He gives us ability to. But I think back to the days of playing sports, and many people don't know this, but I was on swim team for my junior year.
Every day is a new adventure with you, man.
Yes. So I did swim team as a kid, number one, and so I learned all that stuff, and I did well. But then you got to high school, and I played sports that were there in this. I guess that's swim
dude.
Team
That was
there.
awesome.
That's
all the swimmers are like,
sorry, swimmers.
Forget this guy.
I didn't mean that. I didn't mean it like that. I mean, I did the sports that I enjoyed more in there, and it conflicted with swim team. So. More team sports, right?
Yes.
Rather than
ones that include a ball.
Okay, there we go.
There you go.
So that was terrible. I hope we edit that part out. I'm just kidding. My junior year, blew out my knee. Got into swim team to help rehab my knee, and they talked me into going to meets and I was like, all they had to say is, hey, you get to miss school and you get free meals. I'm
sold.
Like, I'm in. And so jumped into that. Jumped into that. And but here's what's interesting is that, like, I wasn't even. There's something about it is like I wasn't even there to try to win everything, but I still. Dude, before the race, man, I'd feel the anxiety. I feel it warming. Dude, I would be locked in.
Yeah. You think you don't care, and then your body is like, actually.
Yeah, actually, we do care.
We do.
And so I think about it, God gives us that. Anxiety is not a bad thing by itself. It's what we do with it and how we direct it. And what are we anxious about?
What's it coming from? Yeah.
What's it stemming from? Is it a lack of faith? Is it fear? Is it fear-driven? Because fear doesn't come from God. So really, let's get to the root of that. What are you afraid of? What is stirring that fear in you? Is it a lack of trust that God's got you, that He's going to protect you, that He's going to provide for you, that He's going to take care of you? What is it? Are you trying to be God, or are you trusting God to be God? And so, there's that. All right, we're just hitting that.
Sorry, so he says, don't worry about anything. And then I love this passage because I feel it's one of the more like instructional verses, step by step, that we get in Scripture. And he says, instead, pray about everything, tell God what you need, and thank Him for all that He has done. And I love it, right? Because we can't tell God what we need without thanking Him for all that He's done. Like, I think we're actually pretty good at telling God what we need, or at least what we want, or what we desire. Yeah. But the thanking Him for all He's done is pretty important. And we don't have to spend a lot of time on that, but I do think there's something in that just reminds us, we're a forgetful people. Like, our attention span is so short-sighted. And so to remind ourselves, like, no, Lord, like, you did this, and you did this, and you did this, and you did this. And so I have confidence that if this is what I need now, you'll do it again in the way that you need to do it.
The way that I've heard it said, and many people have heard this, is that, worry is like a warning light on your dashboard. What are you going to do with it? Like, it should be a warning light that tells you, hey, talk to God. Hey, go to God. Yeah. Because that's that pray about everything deal. Like, what do we need? Well, we get worried about what we need, right? Why do we get worried about what we need? Because we forgot about what He's done for us, that He's taken care of us before, He'll take care of us again, right? But we I think part of it may be that we sometimes think, well, we've taken care of us. Yeah. Like, we worked hard, we earned the money, it was our effort that got us this far. So what are we going to do next? Like, we put the weight on our own shoulders and saying, well, if it's going to be, it's up to me, Yeah. And so that's that whole pray about everything. When you think about that, and this is a thing that I spent some time on yesterday of what does it look like to pray about everything for you?
Yeah, well, that's even you talked about not being the last resort, but the first priority, and I was thinking through that because it's hard. It's hard to know what to pray for before you get there.
Yeah.
And I think some of it is just this consistent, right? And you talk a lot about, like, you did use the walkie-talkie example yesterday. I think some of it is not necessarily even for me what I'm praying about, but simply just that I am praying, right? That I am slowing down long enough. And one of the things that I just try to ask God is like, hey, God, let me see things the way that you see them. Let me see people the way that you see them. And even just starting my day there really helps me see and understand, like, okay, what is going on around me? It helps me kind of move slower.
Yeah.
And I think just being consistent in that, like, that is a lot of the praying about everything, because then when I find myself praying that, when I get into certain situations or I get into things that are creating anxiety in my life or tough decisions, or I'm already coming at it from a baseline of like, hey, God, how do you want me to see this thing or this moment or my kid? And even then, I think slowing down long enough, I think we're such a quick decision people.
Yeah.
I've been processing this a lot with lately with myself, and then even my wife and I are very reflective people. And so I think sometimes when we're going through a moment, we're not always good at being like, oh, this is what God is doing here.
Yeah.
But we're very good at looking back and going like, okay, we can see and we can acknowledge and we can praise God for this in this moment. And we're still growing in some of that space. But I think some of that is sitting there, and when we're praying regularly or consistently, it actually allows us to slow down and go, hey, I don't really even have to know all of this right now or call all of these shots right now or make all of these decisions right now. I kind of have some time to think through it, pray through it, and make some decisions, or even just to hit a pause and go, hey, we can't move forward here right now.
Yeah.
Because I think that Jesus moves a lot slower than me, and I'm really thankful for that. Like, I feel like when the Lord is speaking to me and doing things, it's always so much slower than I want it to be. It always feels like it. Even just he speaks slower, he moves slower, and which is good for me, because and you know this and get this about me. Like, I'm like, hey, we can actually solve all these issues in the next 10 days. And the Lord is like, no, why don't you chill out, homie? And so,
there's a process that I want to take people through. It's a process of growing us, and we're going, well, why don't you grow us later? We'll just fix it. We'll just take care of this first.
Yeah. So for me, I think a lot through, yours is the, what do you want me to know? What do you want me to do? I really think through a lot of like, hey, God, how do you help me to see things the way that you see them, and help me to see people the way that you seem to see them. Yeah. And that helps me really move at a certain pace, I think.
Yeah. I think one of the things even about the walkie-talkie illustration, every illustration breaks down at some level. Like, I can always break down. Well, then there's this problem with it, right? But the one thing about the walkie-talkie illustration that I feel like breaks down at some point is simply the fact that he's not a distance. He's literally with you, right? Right. But the walkie-talkie just helps us relate to the idea of, hey, stop and listen. Don't just turn off the radio after you give your order. That's not what God's trying to do. But stop and listen to what God wants to do. And for me, it is constantly reminding myself that, when I get the text before I respond, all right, God, is there something you want me to know here? Yeah. And understanding that the Spirit is with me so that I don't get ahead. I think about what Jesus said when he says, I only do what the Father's doing. I only say what the Father is showing. Like, I only do what the Father's showing me. Like that constant, like, he's doing it. He's seeing what God is doing and doing it as he sees it, right?
Yeah.
Right. That is that picture of that constant communication that I'm going, man, that's what prayer should be. And I think that that's what's difficult, because we grow up, at least often if you grew up in church, you have prayer events, right? Yeah. Or we have messages about prayer. Yeah. In fact, I find this interesting. Every church will say they believe in prayer. But so often we don't practice prayer very often, as much as we say we depend on it or believe in it. And so that's one of the things I love about our church. Pastor Jim, I mean, he is a prayer warrior. He loves leading that. We have men's prayer breakfast, women's prayer breakfast. We have the prayer gathering on Tuesday nights, and then we do abide nights. And as a staff, we gather and pray. I mean, prayer is a big part of what we do here, but it shouldn't be just moments that we gather that we pray. This shouldn't be just an event. Those are great times to pray. I mean, we see that in Scripture. People gather and pray, and so often when God's people gathered to pray is when we saw God show up in major ways. And so good thing to do, right? We should do it, but at the same time, like, that shouldn't be the only thing, right? It should be an attitude of, I guess you go to the pray without ceasing mindset of, and really just looking, well, what does that look like with Jesus? How did he model that?
Yeah.
I only do what I see the Father doing.
Yeah.
Oh, so there's this deal of I'm just walking at the Father's pace.
Yeah.
Right? And that comes back to us. Are we willing to walk at the pace of Jesus in our life? To go, I would really like to get these 10 things done right now.
Yeah.
In fact, this has been always, one of my struggles, even with the message, is that I'm academically trained to write a theologically sound message. I can do that.
Yeah.
But if I do it based on just being a theologically sound message, I'll be frustrated. It'll feel flat. I won't have a lot of passion behind it.
Yeah.
Because, it'll be accurate, be informational, but I don't think it'll be transformational because it wasn't Spirit-led. It wasn't the Spirit saying, here's where your sheep are and here's what the sheep need.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so learning to listen at his pace can sometimes... there's this wrestling match with me because the intellectual side goes, all right, let's get going. I got to get some stuff down. I got deadlines. That Sunday comes every week.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I'm a planner too. So I like to plan ahead. I like to be ahead. And even now, there's some things that we're thinking through in ministry that I'm like, oh man, the Lord is revealing some stuff now that we didn't, we're in a totally different student ministry than we were 6 months ago. And so thinking through that and one of the things too that I think of praying being the first priority, I think that there are moments that we know that are going to make us anxious. I think that there are moments that we can almost be prepared for, right? So I think...
Give me an example.
And so there are moments, and I'm thinking of like real instances in my life.
Yeah.
Being a young student pastor in his 20s and just always under the reality of like, you've got to talk with full-grown adults about their teenagers, and they're looking to you for help, which is bananas.
Yeah.
And I had a couple students who had just gotten themselves into an issue and a really messy situation. And I've got to go over to the head football coach's house because it's his daughter. And all I'm thinking is like, this man, I have nothing to offer this human. And I just remember sitting in my car and I'm getting ready and I'm going to go have a conversation that everybody's anxious about. And I just remember asking the Lord, like, God, I have no clue what I'm doing. Whatever's about to happen inside of there has to be like 100% you. I need you to give me words on the fly, baby. Like, I need you to give me some stuff. And walking in, like, I remember walking out of that conversation and going, dang, I crushed that. And I had no clue, right? Like, it was just like the Lord was like, oh man, I did not know that those were the words. I didn't know that was how that needed to be handled. I didn't know how that's, and the Lord just goes before you. Or, it can, even one that's a little bit less tiresome or feels less anxiety. Like, I know every evening when I go into my house, I've got 3 kids under 6.
Yeah.
There's going to be some chaos.
A little bit.
My wife's been at work all day. Yeah. And when I just take a breath in my car and I'm just like, God, hey, be with me in my house. Be with me in this moment. Be with me and help me in the next few situations. Give me the energy to be a still presence.
Yeah.
And when I don't pray that, I'm not those things. But those are moments that can give us anxiety and I think about being a first priority. In that, you talked about like, hey, there are some things.
Hey, let me ask you about this. Good. Why do you think people struggle just with the idea of prayer? Like, because we see it all the time. I mean, I think I maybe take it for granted because I grew up in a house where my parents prayed all the time. I'm grateful for that. Prayer warriors. I believe it's part of the reason God kept me on the path that he kept me on because I was most likely to get off that path. Most likely to succeed in failing. Yet my parents were prayer warriors, and I'm really grateful for that. But why do you think prayer is so intimidating to people?
I think one, I've thought about this.
Or difficult.
Yeah. I've thought about this a lot, right? Like, we're a much less religious culture than the first century church. I think now this is shifting, but I think historically we're a little bit less open to like the supernatural and some of those things. And prayer is supernatural to some extent, or to a lot of extent. But I think too, and I felt this conviction, and I don't know if I've come to good conclusions or found a good way to do it. I think in the church, I don't think we always do a good job of teaching people to pray by inviting them into prayerful moments. right? Like we do a lot of praying to transition the service, right? We do a lot of praying to open the sermon moment or to close the sermon moment. And even when we model praying, like the way that I'm going to pray before a message is not the way that some of the people sitting in our seats that have known Jesus for 72 hours, we're going to be talking to the Lord. And we do a lot of like, oh, well, it's just like a conversation. Well, we just talked about at the front end of this podcast that people don't know how to have a conversation.
Right. We struggle to talk to people.
I do feel like there's a lot of barriers there. And I think that there's something, and I've been thinking through this a lot lately. How do we as a church not teach another class on prayer and ABC, right? But, the disciples asked Jesus, Lord, they see something in him.
Yeah, they go, you pray different.
Yeah, and then they ask him to teach them. And then, he gives them kind of this little script that we know is not just like a magical prayer, but just kind of shows how we should pray, things that we should think about, a pattern, a rhythm to pray in. And I don't know if we do a good job of that. And I think even, sometimes maybe more liturgical churches have a little bit more of like, hey, here's this on the screen. Why don't you pray through this today? Why don't you think about through this? Or here's some points of just kind of helping people and guiding them.
We try to do at some of the
abide and things
like that. But so do you have any, like when you're trying to teach students to pray, what are some, I mean, I think we should think that way.
We should,
What are maybe some practices or things that you encourage them to try? Because everybody learns differently. Yeah. And I think that that's part of our struggle is that some people are like, well, just give me the formula. And we're like, wow, okay. There's not really a formula. Yeah. But are you an audible learner? Are you a visual learner? Are you how does, so what kind of, what are some things that you've used to try to help encourage people as you've taught that?
And some of those are, I think we do have strategically used some events and moments in a period of time just because we have them in a moment where, whether it's a prayer night or a different night on a Wednesday where it's like, hey, you're going to do some guided prayer stations or stuff like that where we can guide them and they can see words. I think we have to actually put in the transition that says, hey, you can actually pray this prayer all the time, or these are those moments that would pop up, and helping them understand where and when they could pray for things. Because we're very much like sports, tests, dog die. Like it's here are the moments that we ask for prayer. Yeah. I think equipping leaders also to be asking students for prayer and helping them understand when and where they can pray, and then giving them things to engage with in those prayer moments. And then there are some things where I don't know if I've even figured it out in 10 years perfectly. But I think one of the things is just teaching students, hey, here's how to be in the Word.
Yeah.
Because being in the Word mirrors prayer, because it teaches us, the Word is what kind of teaches us the voice and the movement of God. And then asking God to like, hey, be able to see that or to hear that from Him or to know that that's forward movement, right? I think that's a part of the listening portion of it.
Yeah.
And we have to figure those things out together. Yeah. And I don't know if we've done it well or perfectly. There's even some things that I'm thinking through right now for our student ministry here, because our church has such a high priority on prayer. I think our student ministry should make some shifts for it to have a higher priority, and what that looks like. But what have you done from a student perspective?
Yeah, well, and that's what I'd say. I think a lot of what you said is really great. It's literally just helping create patterns of hey, this is basically practice patterns, right? Yeah. When you're learning handwriting, you follow the dotted lines, right? Yeah. To learn, your letters, and in the same way, you're trying to create dotted lines for people. Yeah. But then also, I think there's just some practices that I've seen be helpful for different people. There's the practice of writing out your prayers. Oh yeah. Because some people, that's how they process better, and so as they write it, you write it like you're writing a note to God. Yeah. And as you do that, it helps you process your prayer, and it feels very real, rather than just something that is not concrete, but you're helping make it a little more concrete by writing it out.
Yes. And your thoughts are clear when you're writing.
A little more clear. Then there's also, and it also helps you keep, if your brain is always, God,
Did I pray for that?
Yeah. God, thanks for my family, and oh gosh, did I leave the dog out today?
Yeah.
All of a sudden you're off. And so it's one of those deals of it helps you stay focused. But the other thing that I think is really good, I just listened to a book, I think it was called Two Chairs. Not two chains, but two chairs. Sorry. So Two Chairs. But he talks about it just developing this moment with God where he literally has two chairs set up in his house where he goes and he spends time with God. And he imagines that God is sitting there with him in an empty chair, talking to him. I've heard of a student that I had once that her thing was to get in the car and buckle the seatbelt next to her in the empty chair and drive and talk as if God was in there. And I was like, well, just make sure you don't say, Jesus, take the wheel. Because, all right,
you keep both hands,
Keep both hands on it. That's metaphorical, okay.
The Spirit can, but I don't think he will.
Yes, but it's that idea of creating a space where you are envisioning that God, because God is with you.
Yeah.
It's just that we are so focused on the physical realm that to begin to understand that God didn't just make us physical, he made us spiritual as well. That in the spiritual realm, God is with us. He's right there. The Spirit is inside of us. And so creating that space that goes, wait a minute, no, I can, this will help me visualize the fact that I'm talking to someone, that someone's with me. So those are two just real practical ways to begin that practice. And that I've seen has been helpful for some people. And some it's hey, pray out loud. Don't just pray in your head.
Yeah.
Talk out loud.
Yeah.
Make it and other people may be like, well, who is he talking to?
Yeah.
That's okay. You can tell them later, I was talking to God.
Yeah.
That's good. So
yeah, I think and some of that, I think when you think about like, hey, God's sitting next to me, God's across from me, it really kind of breaks down some of what you talked about, right? Wrong beliefs about God, right? It's always, if God is sitting next to you, you better make sure that it's the right God, right? And our beliefs build up that God, right? And so I love the ones that you covered. God is disappointed in me. I don't love that belief, but I think it was pretty all-inclusive, right? Like God is distant. He doesn't care. His plans are harsh or restrictive. I have to earn God's favor. Just because I'm interested, what would you feel like, right, when you look at this, that you go, hey, this is what I find to be true most of the time. Like this is the barrier most of the time. Maybe it's pretty equal across the board. Maybe there's one that you go, hey, this is the one maybe that I struggle with. Like, what does that look like?
I think it's maybe 1 and 2. 2 more than 1. But many people feel like, well, he's God. Like, well,
yeah.
And if he's distant, he's got, like, this isn't that big of a deal, and he's going to just trust me to take care of the things I can take care of, and I'll talk to him about things I can't take care of, and see if he's not too busy. Like, no, that's not who God is. And I think that is actually hurts our prayer life. It keeps us from trying to talk to God because we think, he's God. He's got so many other things to do. Why would he be concerned about this, right?
Yeah, his hands are full.
We don't see him as relational, I guess, is the problem.
Yeah.
And so I think that might be one of the major things that leads to prayerlessness, that leads to worry. But then also the God is disappointed in me. If we constantly think God's disappointed, if you always felt like someone was disappointed in you, you wouldn't be eager to talk to them all the time.
Yeah.
And I think that those often keep us from looking to God because we're going, well, I don't feel like I can ask God for anything or to help with this, or I don't know that I can because I'm pretty sure he's still pretty upset about what I did last week. That's not the way he's working.
Yeah.
So I've got to do a few things to get God undisappointed with me before we start trying to get God to help me again.
Yeah, is this enough yet, or am I capable, or for sure, man.
What are your thoughts?
No, I think that I think I grew up and I had a great youth ministry, a friend of mine now, a mentor still, and sometimes I do think, I grew up in so many altar calls that were like, do you have sin in your life? And it's, and I was the repeat offender that was like, yeah, dude. And it didn't feel like it went away last time. Like, I gave my life to Jesus when I was 6 years old, and then all of my worst sin was in front of me. All of my worst moments were in front of me.
Yeah.
And I don't know if, and I grew up in a household that there was a lot of like, sibling comparison, like different stuff going on. And so I think I struggled with that for a long time of like, hey, I understand disappointment. I understand what that looks like.
Yeah.
And I think that that's probably how God feels about me because, man, and he had to die. Golly, man, I'm so sorry that he had to come down and do that. And just to understand like his love even outside of the cross moment, his love for me even outside of the moment. Like, yes, that pinnacle of it, but just like, hey, and he still loves you and he continues to love you and he has like a vision for your life and like what that looks like, and he's inviting you into something. I think it's something our church does really well at. I'm not sure if historically I've always seen churches be good at that, right? Like, and so I think there's still some of that if I'm struggling with the wrong belief about God, I have to overcome like, hey, that is not who I know you to be, God. Like I know more than that now.
Yeah.
And I think that pairs with your wrong beliefs about self, right? Like,
look,
I'm not enough. If you don't
have a right belief about God, you will not have a right belief about yourself.
For sure,
and that's just the reality.
Those led to disobedience as a barrier to peace. Dude, so good.
And it's kind of paired with that next one, that peace is a product of obedience, because verse 9, he goes on to say, keep putting into practice all that you've learned and what you've received from me. Like, just keep doing what God tells you to do. Yeah. And I mean, we can just see that. Yeah. We see that in our own lives, that when I think, this isn't that big of a deal, I'll do this, it never leads to peace in my life. Yeah. It always leads to more complications. And that's the same with those that we lead and the students that we've poured into. It's like, you think it's not that big of a deal because everyone's doing it and it doesn't seem like anything's happening. But I'm just telling you, it's going to lead to more chaos and destruction and guilt and frustration and going to make you feel distant from God. And it's going to, like, you don't have to. Why? Because peace is found. It's a product of obedience. It's found when we're following Jesus and trusting his way. Yeah. And I think that's what helps us experience the full life. That's like, Jesus says that our love for him is expressed in obedience. And certainly we get that wrong sometimes, and certainly we get it right. But I think the more habits and patterns of belief or of obedience that we stack up, the more that we experience peace, the more that we experience full life. And I think that's a lifelong journey for sure. Yeah. And for me, I think to this, and it's because of one of my greatest fears was to be poor. That's why I didn't want to go into ministry. When God first called me into ministry, then I went into ministry, and I was definitely poor. Amen. But what was crazy is I had a fear of being poor. It was a fear that was driving me. Yeah. Why? Because the root of the fear was that God wasn't going to take care of me. Yeah. That he wouldn't provide, that I would be in a bad place. Well, guess what? I look back and God has always provided. He's always taken care of me. But along the way, I still had to make decisions. Yeah. When I wasn't sure how the finances were going to work out, would I be willing to give what God had the conviction God had given me through Scripture that, hey, the first 10% goes to God. When I was living paycheck to paycheck, and it didn't seem like that made sense on paper, would I be willing to trust God with that? Yeah. Would I be willing to walk in obedience with that, trusting that it would work out? I feel like God walked me through that time and time again. And when it came to it, when I look at our finances, God always came through. Here's what happened. He built my faith with that. Yeah. So now when financial struggles come, I look and go, I don't know how he's going to handle it. Yeah. I have peace. Yeah. Because I walked through time where God said, no, I'm going to take you to a time where you're going to face that fear head on. Yeah. And you're going to have to choose, are you going to trust me with what I've told you, or are you going to do it your own way? Yeah. If you trust me, you're going to see me come through, and it's going to build your faith in such a way that, man, that's not going to scare you anymore. Yeah. And the same is true with relationships, for those who are single, with marriages, with are you with parenting? Yeah. One of the fears of parenting, if I don't let my kid put my kid in all these opportunities, then they're going to miss out and they're not going to make it, and I'm not going to set them up for success, and I'm going to fail as a parent. Bull. Yeah. I've actually had more parents say to me, hey, I wish we'd focus more on their spiritual development. We were so concerned about their academic or athletic development that those two things didn't really matter. They still ended up in the path that they were going to end up in. Yeah. But one thing we wish we had not, one thing we wish we'd prioritized and not put on the back burner was was their walk with Jesus, because that's the one thing that matters most in the long run. And so you see that, but so often fear decisions, fear of, well, everyone else, and what if my kid, and what if it doesn't? And you know what God said to me the other day? I was in a moment. I was frustrated, and it was really stirred by fear and frustration and not feeling like things were working out. I felt like God said to me, you can trust me with your son's story.
Yeah.
Well, you know why he was saying that? Because I was worried. I was anxious about it. And he's going, you're trying to control it. You can trust me with that, right?
Yeah.
And I had a moment where I took a deep breath, and I was like, okay, God.
Yeah.
I'll trust you.
Dude, that is one of the things that I feel like we always remind ourselves in our house as we're kind of wrapping up, of just, hey, God loves our kids more than we love our kids.
Yeah.
Which is really, a powerful truth. Our kids actually, know that. We'll say like, hey, who loves you? Well, mommy and daddy. Well, who loves you even more than mommy and daddy? Well, Jesus does. And for our kids to know that, because we want them to know like, hey, we'll fail them.
Yeah.
But the Lord won't. And when life gets hard and you feel like mommy and daddy don't have the answers, well, you can know the one who does. And I think it's because we know they will experience anxiety. They will experience the struggle of this world, and we want them. They're probably going to come to us first, and then when we don't have the answers, we want them to know that there's someone who does, and that they can come to, and He holds the keys to life. So, man, I thought yesterday was powerful. I think every week is good. There's always something but I think weeks like this week, those are the ones that you look at and you go, dude, everyone is dealing with this.
Right.
Everyone is. No one walked in not dealing with some measure of anxiety about something.
Right.
And they want to be able to experience peace about it. So I thought it was really powerful. Any last minute thoughts?
No, I've loved this study. I've loved this time through walking through Philippians, because it is so practical. It's something that, applies to, think about it, written over 2,000 years ago to a group of followers of Jesus.
Still matters.
And what was true then is still true today. It's just, will we trust it?
Absolutely. Well, thanks, bro. I appreciate it. And we'll see you guys next week on the podcast.